welcome back, knitters. I am here on the PurlCast with Shellie Fry. Shellie is one of my patrons, and I certainly appreciate her support. So we're just going to have a little visit today about what you're working on and what you do there in Ohio. Welcome.
Hi.
So, Shellie, when did you first of all, I'm always curious to know how did you find Purl Together? Like, how did you discover the channel? Do you recall?
I do. I wanted to learn to do a toe up. I wanted to try a toe up, and I had this big notion of toe up 2 socks at a time.
Oh.
And so I bumped into it there, and it stuck. I stayed. I don't like toe up, but I love you.
Oh, well, thank you. And I think that was when we were doing maybe the Scatterbee tutorial summer before last, or it was in the spring when we did. I'll put a link down below if people are interested. It was a 2 at a time toe up. The pattern is called Scatterbee socks. You can find that on Ravelry, but I'll put a link down below. Yeah, toe up is not necessarily my preferred way. Well, I don't mind. As I said when I saw you at the retreat, we just finished our Purl Together hopefully annual, our first ever Purl Together retreat that we held in Ogden, Utah. So Shellie and I got to meet each other in person, and that was really fun, along with 14 or so other people. So that was a blast for the weekend. And during our class about socks, I talked about why I prefer cuff down. I mean, I think toe up serves a purpose, and it works really well for some people. So I don't have any judgment there. It's just personal preference for me. So, but that's how you found the channel, and then you discovered that it kind of the toe up thing wasn't your jam, right?
No, it wasn't my jam, but I loved your channel, and I have stuck.
You have. You've been here. Well, you became a patron when I very first started that. And so anyway, for viewers, if you're interested in what I offer over at patreon.com, there's a link down below. So, do you knit socks frequently or not so much?
No, I knit socks. I have a daughter-in-law who is a sockaholic, so I do knit socks.
Does she know how to make her own?
No, she's tried. She arm knits.
Okay.
But they're all my daughter and both my daughter-in-laws have tried, and I just think it's going to come with age.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't knit very much in my teens and maybe early 20s, but I kind of came back to it in my mid 20s. Of course, now I'm obsessed. But yeah, I wasn't into it so much during that 10-year period or so. Yeah. So, but you're primarily, I mean, is socks your favorite thing or not your favorite thing? Or do you have a favorite thing to knit?
I don't have a favorite thing to knit, actually. I just love to knit, and actually whatever the yarn, I will pick a yarn and I let it tell me what it wants to be.
Right.
So, and but I love to knit socks. I love to knit sweaters. I love to knit shawls. I love to knit washcloths. I love to knit anything. It just really whatever's my mood or whatever the yarn calls for.
Well, first, let me back up. When did you learn to knit? Like, do you recall how and why and where you learned?
Yeah. When both my grandmothers were makers. One was more prone to one craft section and the other to the other. My mother's mother taught me to cast on a knit stitch, and she taught me to crochet. And so I picked up that as a little girl. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. Right. When I hit high school, I absolutely loved home ec. You couldn't have taught me enough. I could have stayed in home ec. I loved it, and I loved everything my teacher taught me. But when I was in about 4th grade, it was really interesting. We had a Thanksgiving play, and a little girl walked in, and oh my gosh, she was a pilgrim, and her mother had made her entire outfit, and she had knit her shawl. And she was just stunning, just beautiful. And I know that this seems like a very young age, But when I saw that little girl and that costume, I said, I'm going to be that mom. I want to do that. And
Wow.
so I'm a maker constantly, but it was very, very, very clear after I saw this little girl that when I grew up and as I grew up, those were the things I wanted to do.
Yeah, that made a pretty big impression, it seems. Yeah. Wow.
Huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Huh. Do you have photos still of that event and that play?
No, I don't even think my mother took any photographs.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Well, obviously you have that influence for sure that you wanted to be the mom that makes all this stuff, right?
Yes, I wanted to, and I mean, I was in 4th grade. I was like, I'm going to be that mom.
Right. That's so cool.
So it just kind of
your kids probably
really.
had like the best Halloween costumes in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
No?
Maybe not. It's subjective.
Well, that's true. So, but now you have all the grandkids and you're making stuff for them, I'm sure.
Yes, I absolutely love to make for the littles. They're just so much fun.
That's really cool. So do you have favorite things that you keep going all the time? Like maybe that you have travel projects, like I usually have a sock or at least one sock going for in the car, or something easy like a dishcloth, like you mentioned, that, if you have to be out and about and you got to wait at the doctor's office or you have to go somewhere and you know what I mean, there's waiting around at an event. Do you usually have something that's easy to take with you that's portable?
Yeah, I always have a sock.
Yeah.
Or a dish rag. But the dish rags, there's a reason for them. It's not a dish rag, it's a wash rag. We have a project at our church where we do Christmas packages for children in other countries.
Right.
And so a wonderful woman at our church came up with the idea, and we take and collect these wash rags all year, and a local hotel gives her X amount of soap, and we put the wash rags around the soap and put them in the Christmas boxes. So
I see.
I keep wash rags all the time going.
Right.
And
so
then
you do that consistent charity knitting then too.
Oh, huge. Yeah. I actually am part of a local group that knits and makes for all the local NICUs, and so there's always baby booties and sweaters and napkins and things like that going on.
Right. So wow, busy.
Yeah.
Cool. So what do you have going currently? What's on your needles right now?
Well, right now, when we were in Ogden, I picked up the pattern at the needlepoint joint. It's called the Pebble Beach Shawl.
Oh.
Pebble Beach Shawl.
Oh. And we'll put a link down below too. Okay. Cool.
The Pebble Beach Shawl.
Oh, and let me give a quick shout out to the gals at the Needlepoint Joint. They were fantastic. They hosted our group, and we had a wonderful time, and of course spent a lot of money. And it was they were so kind. And if you're ever in Ogden, check out the historic 25th Street District and go see the wonderful people at Needlepoint Joint. Link to their shop down below as well. So what colors? Show me what you picked up, what you chose for that Pebble Beach. That's lovely.
Well, it was it's the Pebble Beach Shawl, but I am calling it the Ogden Fall Retreat Shawl because I picked up a color, this beautiful color.
Nice.
It's a Cumbria yarn, and I got it in a fall color because when I knit for myself, I like to attach memories to it. So this is a memory of our retreat. So that's I'm
looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's beautiful yarn. It's the first time I've knit with Cumbria, but I like it.
Yeah, it's unfamiliar to me. That color will look fantastic on you, I must say. So,
awesome. Thank you.
So what else have you got going?
Well,
because I know you don't just have one thing, right? You don't just have one thing.
I've got 5 sweaters on the needles, and
what? 5?
5, and
Wow.
There's one, I had thought about righteously ripping it, and I took it out. It's been in babysitting for about a year. But
is that the nice way of saying it's been in timeout?
Oh, well, it's the big comfy sweater. I saw Marley Bird, and it was a red heart pattern. Very simple, but it's long. It's huge. It's huge. This is the front panel. Just ginormous.
So is it, I'm not familiar with that pattern. Is it like a ginormous cardigan kind of thing?
It's a sweater. It's a jumper, front and back. It's not a cardigan, but it's long, so it goes way over your britches, so you could maybe wear it with a legging or whatever. Right. But I fell in love with this Cascade Eco yarn.
Okay.
It's their Peruvian colors. Uh-huh. And anyway, I did a big boo-boo. The whole front's done, and I got a huge portion of the back done. And I guess I was just knitting along, and I didn't swap out skeins. And so there's this section that would hit me about mid-back. Can you see this right here?
Yeah, I can see that there's a kind of a
delineation.
Yeah.
Because I just was cruising, and I was like, oh my gosh. I just did this huge section, then another big swatch. And so I don't know. I was thinking this morning, I have been thinking for probably a month, let's just pull that out, because I love the yarn. Love it, love it, love it. And then I pulled it out this morning from timeout, and I was like, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'll have to decide if you're okay with that variation in color, or would you be happier if you took the time to rip that part out and then reknit that with alternating rows of the skein and kind of blending that in. You just have to decide how you feel about it. If you regret not changing it, and then would you wear the sweater, or would the sweater be all finished and then sit in the drawer forever?
Yeah, I keep thinking, oh,
you know in your gut how you feel. You do.
I do it, and I really until this morning I was like, I'm ripping it out. Because see, I love that yarn. That yarn is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It feels good. It's warm, and it needs to be something that I'm gonna gush over. And I'm like, that big old stripe in my back does not make me happy.
Doesn't make me happy. So I think you have to listen to your gut about that. I mean, well, let me ask you this. If you take that out and you get rid of that stripe and you reknit it with a skein that you think matches better, will you have enough yarn? Will you have enough to finish?
Oh, absolutely. I overbought on purpose because I knew that I would have extra, and possibly there would be fingerless knits or something.
Right. So you could use that other, the lighter colored skein that's creating that stripe. You could totally use that for something else, potentially, like the mitts or a hat even, or, yeah. You gotta do what makes you happy.
Yeah, I'm gonna think on it, because I don't want to do anything catastrophic today, but
Yeah,
but it came out of the bag today for the first time in a while, so I was kind of happy about that.
You're happy it gets to see the light of day, but you're right. Yeah. Don't do anything catastrophic.
Right.
That's one thing about knitting is, people get super tense, and there's always the possibility of a do-over,
Yeah.
And that's what I try to tell new knitters, particularly, is that you can always fix it. Even if you do that righteous rip, you can always reknit it. We need a term for that, by the way. So let's say you do, just not that particular sweater, but with anything, you tear it out and you have this pile of yarn intestines on the floor, and then you knit back to where you were before that happened, and you're fixing an error or maybe just something that you're not pleased with. And you get back to the yarn that hasn't already been knitted, right? What do we call that?
Resurrection knitting.
There needs to be a term for that. Like it never happened,
Yeah, resurrection knitting. You resurrected it from its craziness.
Could be. Or it's like deja vu, you know, like you've been here before.
Yeah.
Like we need to play on words with knitting. I don't know. So the sweater has seen the light of day. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, that's one of 5, however.
Yeah. Yeah. I have 3 of them going. And they're just, there's no pattern, actually. I was knitting them from my numbers. There's a little lady in Georgia, and she has a podcast or a YouTube channel called Jay's Knit and Purl Jam. and I love what she says. She says, honey, it's just yarn. Don't fret. Just simmer down. But this little woman was like knitting with your grandma, and she taught you the numbers, you know, measure yourself at these points. And it's like when you taught us about the socks, you can knit any sock.
Right. With this formula.
Yeah, just the formula. And so I have 3 in bags from just this, and you can change the button bands.
Okay, cool.
Or you can add in the front panels any, you know, motifs or whatever. So, you know, I love cardigans.
Yeah, like we talked about with the sock class, you choose your own adventure, and once you know the formula, you can make it how you can, you know, customize it however you choose to. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's fantastic. So cool. So you have the shawl going, you always have a sock going, you do your charity knitting, and then you've got all these sweaters. That's a lot. Yeah,
well, I got about 12 whips, and I just really, I'm going to add one more to it, and I think I've decided what I'm going to do. But I had a unicorn yarn. You know what I mean by a unicorn yarn?
Well, I know what I think that means. Like
unfindable.
Yeah, one of a kind, special. You'll never see it again.
Well, this yarn, when I travel a lot, and when I travel, I always, you know, I scope out through needle travel where I'm going to go visit on my trips and stuff. And I had picked up some mini skeins for my Cozy Memories blanket of Shalimar yarns. Have you heard of Shalimar yarns?
I have not.
Well, they had some mini skeins, and I picked up a mini skein, and there was a color that I fell in love with, and it's their Breathless blend, and it's merino, cashmere, and silk. Oh. And they had a color called Asilomar. And come to find out, I don't know if this is exactly why they named it this, but there is a state park called Asilomar in California. And what drew me to the yarn is I take a cruise every winter, and when you're on a ship and you're looking down that water, you'll never see water like that unless you're looking down at it on the ocean. Uh-huh. And this Asilomar was amazing. It looked exactly like that water. And so this is it. It took me a very long time. They no longer make the colorway. It took me about 8 months to get these 2. I found one at a shop. And then I got on Ravelry and looked in people's stashes that they were willing to trade or sell.
Yeah.
And so I got that, and I think I want it to be about the yarn because I'm attaching a memory to it. So I wanted it not to be an overly technical shawl because I want to wear this on the ship in January on the deck in the evening. Sure. So, but Joji Locatelli has Remember When, and it kind of has a flow that reminds me of the water out on the ocean. And that's the whole point, is this yarn looks like middle of the ocean water that rolls off the bows of the ship when you're riding. So that is going on my needles, and it may surpass everything because I want it done to wear on that cruise in January.
Cool. So you might have to get cracking on that if you're going to have it done before Christmas. Yeah.
Well, I just need to have it done by the end of maybe the first week of January.
Okay.
So I've got a little time there. So, but it's going up on the needles. But I was looking for the right pattern because, sometimes
You don't want it to be too busy. Yeah.
Pardon me?
You don't want it to be too busy of a pattern if it's all about the yarn. Right.
Yes, exactly. Because did you ever notice that you could take the same pattern and put one yarn with it and the yarn sings, but you could take another pattern and the pattern sings.
Right.
So I was trying to find a balance because this is a really good pattern, I think, for it, that it'll kind of have harmony and pattern and color, but it is really about the yarn.
And it's going to feel fantastic to work with because of the fiber content. That's amazing.
Oh, it is. It's to die for a yarn. Just beautiful.
Yeah. So talking about unicorn skeins, I'm going to show real quick. While we were at the retreat, I too went shopping at Needlepoint Joint, and I was there visiting in August. And when I was, let me back way up. 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, there was a fiber festival in Scottsbluff, Nebraska that I attended, and I saw a skein of yarn that is made by Alexandra Crafts. It's an 800-yard cake. It's called the Black Butte cake. And the reason I was drawn to it is because it's a gradient fade from one color to another, obviously. But nothing's repeated. And so that's why I thought it was great, because it was 800 yards of this gradient fade and nothing is repeated. So if you had, like 2 skeins of sock yarn that are a gradient, if you're going to make something big enough for a shawl, you'd have to have 2 skeins and then you'd have repeating colors, and I didn't necessarily want that. Anyway, so this skein, the cake, was kind of expensive, and I didn't buy it at the time at the Fiber Festival. Well, and then about a year later, I saw the skein again when I was at the Brown Sheep Company factory outlet store. They had a skein of it there, but it's kind of expensive, and I didn't buy it. Well, Needlepoint Joint had another skein in a different colorway that I was also liking, but it wasn't the one I saw, the same colors that I saw, previously at this fiber fair. But I liked it, but I didn't buy it because it was expensive. And I didn't buy it. So now here we are last weekend, and that very same skein was still there.
It was calling your name.
So I bought it. So it's by Alexandra Crafts. Can you see that? Hand dyed fibers, Silverton, Oregon. Alexandra's Crafts. This is 800 yards of gradient. You can see the fade, and it is 60% superwash wool, 20% yak, and 20% silk.
Oh, I love yak.
So I love me some yak.
Oh, it's so soft.
Sounds so funny to say, but it is lovely. So before I bought it, I sat at the little computer in the back at the Needlepoint Joint, and I quickly surfed some patterns, and I'm like, do I need to have a pattern in mind before I buy this, or do I not? But then I saw, I put in the Ravelry advanced search, right? And I put in, 800 yards of fingering weight and like a rectangular, because I'm not really a fan of triangular shawls. So I wanted anyway, up pops 40 to 50 possible patterns. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can find something I like.
Yeah.
So I spent some of my discretionary retreat money on, and I'm glad I did, because I waited 2.5 years, and finally I'm like, yeah, okay, this one skein is going to come home with me now.
Yeah.
So loved it. Right. Oh, and then I bought some sock yarn because, sock yarn. Gotta have sock yarn.
Yeah.
I have sock yarn, but I bought sport weight because I wanted some bigger, thicker socks for my boots this winter on the farm. And yeah, it's pretty, unimagined. It's not very exciting colors, but they're farm socks. So.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's just, stripey. Yeah. But I really like the Regia 6-ply. I've had 6-ply before, and it just makes hefty, they'll last a long time. And there's a big enough skein here that for my ginormous feet. Yeah. So
you make some sturdy, wonderful socks. You do. When you taught us to darn, I thought, man, she makes some sturdy, gonna last you a lifetime socks.
Yeah. So for the viewers, part of our sock clinic at the retreat was learning to darn socks, and I'll link to a video down below that was the basis for that. So Shellie was one of the people that learned how to darn socks, and people certainly had retreat attendees had the option of bringing their own socks to darn, but then if they didn't have one, then they got to fix mine. So Shellie was.
It was so much fun. I loved it.
Yeah, and now I get to have resurrected socks that aren't just languishing in timeout because they have a hole. So
yeah,
but that's the value of knitting densely, like that 9 or 10 stitches per inch, particularly with socks, because they wear better. They wear better than people that knit socks that are kind of airy and flimsy, and they ended up there's 6 or 7 stitches per inch with fingering weight. I mean that it knits up quicker, but it won't last as long. So yeah. So I'm gonna make me some sturdy boot socks for my winter bogs, my muck boots. Right.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Okay, what else is on my list? Oh, so tell me about your bucket list, your knitting bucket list. Like, what kinds of things do you want to learn? Like, I have definitely a bucket list of things I don't understand and don't know how to do and want to do.
Well, we hit on it at the retreat, and it's the brioche. I am the type of person who I understand that I'm going to hit the wall with certain things, but I will keep trying. I won't just quit. Right. And so I got it, for a minute, and then I blew out a whole row. So, but it's okay, because the next time I hit those needles, I know that those things, I'll remember it. But that was definitely something that had been on my bucket list, the brioche, that I would never, ever, I wanted to be in person with,
that was fun
to learn it. And so when you put that we were going to do that, I was like, yes, thank you, Lord. As
a follow-up, it is one of those things where it's kind of like in school when you're learning algebra, you think you get it and you pretty well get the concept, but then you go home and do your homework and you're like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe I got it, maybe I don't have it. And because the construction of brioche looks different, it's harder to learn to read your knitting and fix mistakes. And even Nancy, I'm blanking on her last name, I'll put a link down below. She is like the queen of brioche. And she even says, as many years as she's been doing it, it's difficult to correct those mistakes. It's difficult to read your knitting if you find a mistake down below. And she actually recommends ripping back to the row above where the mistake is and then repairing it. Like, it's really hard. We talk about dropping down and then weaving chain stitch back up. Like, if you find a knit stitch that should have been a purl or whatever, and you want to repair that, it's difficult. It's possible, certainly, but it's difficult to do with brioche until you really get a handle on how everything is supposed to look. And that's hard to do in just one day. We only had a window of time, and that's hard to do. It takes practice, So we're going to have an upcoming series, a short, maybe 2 or 3 week series. Well, we will work on a smaller project together here on the channel. So watch for that. And we'll do that. And hope maybe it'll be a good refresher for those of you that were at the retreat too. So
yeah, you did a great job. It was such a good explanation, and I feel a little more confident in attempting. But I'm attempting when the videos come.
Wait for the video. Yeah, it's fine.
Yes.
So, like, on my bucket list, is double knitting. I have never done that. I would love to learn double knitting. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's another technique. I love cables, all about the cables.
Love them.
I'm not even sure what it's called, but it's like where you have 2 colors and the background is one thing, And then the colors, the cable is a contrasting color and it looks raised. So it actually looks like you have the cables that are just like stuck on there like frosting on a cake. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what that's called. Yeah.
Like 3-dimensional.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh wow.
it's fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
I need to investigate that. Yeah. So what else
A
is
lot of work there, Jana.
Oh yeah, I have, like things to learn for days, years.
Yeah.
Then I'll try to share that with you all. So, but yeah, I have no shortage of things I want to learn.
Yeah.
Oh, guess what else I just discovered?
What?
Are you familiar with the Knitting Guild of America?
Yes.
Okay, so they have a correspondence course where you can become a master knitter, master hand knitter.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you know about this.
I've
always been intimidated about the master hand knitting class. I've always I've never really thought I would pursue that, but then maybe. But now they've come out with another course called the Professional Knitter Course, certification for that. And that's it's not necessarily about like designing and researching and writing reports, but it's about learning. It's about learning to interpret patterns and, be like a professional test knitter, right? Were you aware that this just came out like within the last month?
No, I didn't know about that one, but Roxanne Richardson,
right?
She did the master knitter, and she talks about it in her videos, and intimidating. And most people who take that, they think they're, I'm a proficient knitter, and then they get in there and like, so
I don't know
think
as much.
Fantastic. Yeah, because you really, really hone in. She went on a spiel one time about seed stitch and about how they had to do this swatch, and they have to do so many swatches for that. Yeah. And she's like, I've been knitting seed stitch for years. And she said, and then I get in there and I'm like, I don't know anything about seed stitch.
Right. I imagine it's a little humbling, right?
I think that it's fantastic. Doesn't it take like 3 years?
It's a couple. Yeah, I think it's 2 years at least. Well, on average. I mean, you can work through that as quickly as you're able, and then you mail off your assignments or your homework, and then those pieces, those swatches, and then there's various projects that go along with the different levels that you've achieved. And so you mail that off, and then those projects they're judged. And so you mail off the physical knitting, and then those get sent around to the various people that are in charge of being on that panel of judges, right? So it's quite a process, and partly the time involved is the mailing back and forth of these pieces, right. and you receive feedback, and if you have to have a do-over, right? Because I mean, just when you thought you knew all about it, and then you realize maybe not.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I got from her take on it, but that was my first time I had ever heard about the Master Knitter program. And at first, when I very first started hearing her talk about it, I was like, wow, that would be awesome. I would love to learn all those things. And by the time she was done, I was like, no, I don't know today. Not today. Maybe next year. But it's very interesting. And I think that you walk away with so much knowledge.
Another person that I know talking about that, Suzanne Bryan. I don't know if you have seen her channel.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a master knitter as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic knitter.
For sure. I mean, that's huge. That's a huge accomplishment. And I follow Suzanne's group because she's a wealth of information, and I have huge respect. That cable technique I was talking about, where the cable looks like it's like pasted on there or like it's frosting. You can find out about that on Suzanne's channel.
Okay.
Right. So, but one thing in her group, somebody was talking about that program, and someone mentioned me and said, is Jana a master knitter? And I piped right up and I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I have not undertaken. I mean, that's a huge undertaking, huge respect. And, just to squelch any, bantering back and forth or supposition. I just piped right up and said, nope, nope, I'm not. I know that Suzanne is, and I know lots. That's fantastic. Huge respect.
Well,
maybe one day, maybe I will. Maybe that will be something that I choose to undertake, but it is.
I think you would be amazing at it. And I think for those of us who love and respect you, that's what we think of you.
No. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, yeah. Thank you so much. But I wasn't even aware of that program until the last, I don't know, probably 2 years. I didn't know anything about it. Anyway, so they have this new level of certification, and I would say that it's probably one step below the master hand knitter certification. It's called professional knitter, and they have a new section on the guild website that explains the differences. It's like a frequently asked questions thing, and it explains the differences between the two certifications and why one might choose one over the other. So do you have like long-term projects aside from the 5 sweaters you have going, like how in the group we're doing the Afghan that is 20 different blocks?
Yes.
You have your cozy memory. That's a long-term.
My cozy memories, and it's gonna, my cozy memories blanket is my long term, because I have no idea. I guess it's gonna depend on size, so at what point do I call it done? So, but that is my long term, and I connect, like I said, when I go on vacations, I buy mini skeins, and lovely Phyllis gave me my Ogden one, and I've got that square half done. And if I make things, another thing I'll attach into that cozy memories is, like, if I make something for the kids or something, and then I'll put it in there and I'll call that block by their name, but I have a journal I keep with that. So.
So you have like a grid, like this is J10 and this is this yarn from this project.
Well,
like
actually,
a grid.
This is my journal. This is my journal, and this is block 1, and it says square 1, foundation row, right hand bottom corner, and that has a charm sewn onto it. But in this journal, it gives a description of it, so if the charm ever falls off, they'll know how to decipher that the right hand bottom corner is that pink and white particular yarn, and then everything works from right to left. And so then
I thought you'd have like a grid, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, D, E, and then
maybe after it's done, but one of the things, like this is block 2, row 1, working left of block 1, but I tell the story of where the yarn came from.
Oh, that's cool.
What I was doing, where I was going, and what was special about it. And then that way, one day if something happens to me, my kids can take that blanket out and say, oh gosh, this was when Mom went to New Orleans, and went to the quarter stitch and she bought that yarn there, or Ogden or wherever. And
that's really
and
cool.
They can giggle, or these are my socks. Those socks are long gone.
They'll remember seeing that specific yarn in whatever socks or garment that they had. Yeah. So it's all fingering weight though, right? Or do you have
all fingering weight?
Okay.
All fingering weight.
So do you have a vision of, like, is this going to be twin size or double or a lap Afghan size, or does it just depend?
I want it to be enough that I can fold it up and take it in my bag to go. So maybe a scoosh bigger than a lapkin, so that when I sit in a chair, it'll cover my toes, and I can bring it up. But I don't want it to be a twin size.
Right.
So, but that is my long term, with no idea when that'll be done.
Yeah, I have one of those. It's similar to the Cozy Memories blanket, but it's knitted. So you know how you're doing your mitered squares, but your squares are turned so that they're like this.
On square.
Whereas mine are turned so they're like this, and the mitered.
They're on point. Right,
and that mitered ridge is up and down vertical. And so I started mine years and years ago, and I have my foundation row and 2 or 3 other rows done, but it's king size.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'll probably be long dead by the time anyone ever finishes it.
Well, I wanted, for mine, I wanted to take my memories with me. So that's why I don't want it so large.
Right.
And I would like to finish it.
Well, you have a better shot than I do, for sure.
Yeah. I did not see the On Point Cozy Memories until after I had already begun. And I thought, oh, dang, I wish, maybe I would have seen that. And I thought, that's okay. I'm just going to keep striding. I'm going to keep
and mine's been going for this particular pattern is called the Sock Yarn Blankie. It's by Shellie Kang. And this came out probably 10 years ago, at least. I mean, I started mine not long ago. So, and I didn't ever see the one that's turned like on edge like yours. I didn't ever see that until probably a year or 2 ago. Yeah. So same idea, just a different technique is all. So do you sew them together as you go, or do you join them?
No, it's 64 stitches. You cast on 32 and for the one to start, and then you hone into another one. So the first one you cast on all 64, but then you connect into the next one. So no, I love that.
Yeah, sewing.
Sewing together the blocks.
Join it as you go. Well, we're going to have to figure out how to connect all of our Norah's Afghan blocks into the 12-inch blocks that we're doing one a month. That's a long-term thing for sure.
Yeah, so, I think we've discussed that, and I do agree. I know that this is not a knitting podcast. I mean, this is not a crocheting podcast. It's a knitting podcast, but you need to crochet those squares together and be done.
And I've always said that crochet definitely has its purpose. Absolutely. I mean, I don't identify as a crocheter. I'm not good at it. It certainly has its purpose, and this could very well be one that I will employ for sure. It's going to be more sturdy than trying to sew it or mattress stitch it. I don't like that. Yeah.
It will hook them together quicker and very sturdy.
Yeah, we'll totally work that out for sure. So when you're working on all your stuff, do you have like Netflix that you love? I mean, do you listen to audiobooks? I mean,
I'm an audiobook junkie.
Oh, are you? Okay. So
big audiobook junkie.
More audiobooks than Netflix then when you're knitting?
Yes. Yeah, because I like to listen. When I look up and it takes my focus off sometimes, and then the mistakes happen, so I prefer to listen. And if my husband's controlling the TV watching car shows, those nice earbuds, I can listen to a book and knit. So I'm an audiobook junkie.
So what are some of your favorite audiobook authors?
Oh my God.
Like if we needed suggestions, if our viewers wanted some.
Diana Gabaldon, who wrote Outlander.
Yes.
Oh, that whole series was amazing. And of course, movies never can touch the details of the book. So those were phenomenal. And Anne Hood, what I'm listening to right now is from Anne Hood, and it's called Knitting Pearls. Okay. And it's about 24 different authors writing on on knitters and the transformation and healing that knitting can bring to their life.
Oh, I'm told we'll put the link down below for sure. That sounds I'm gonna have to go investigate that. Okay.
Oh, I love Anne Hood, and she wrote another book called Knitting Yarn, and it's just she is just exquisite. And I told you on the retreat, I'm kind of a nerd. I love like the social history of knitting. Sure.
Did you find those books on audible.com, or where did you locate those?
Oh, those are The Social History of Knitting is a book that's no longer in print. So that's a printed book. But Anne Hood's books are all on Audible.
Okay, awesome. I'll go check
the Outlanders.
Right.
Awesome. All the Outlanders. And then anything that says knitting on it, like Debbie Macomber wrote the Blossom Street series. I've listened to, I mean, she's got more books than Carter's has little pills, and I've listened to every one of them.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So, but just.
What's the gal's name? The Friday Night Knit Club. What's that one called?
Yeah. Yeah, there was.
Jacobs. Is that who that is?
I have the book right here.
I'll find it.
Yeah.
But I saw someone else link to that in a different group recently, so I was thinking about that one. Right.
Yeah, I've read them both. She has Nick 1 and 2.
Right.
So
yeah,
so those are really cool. So I'm pretty attracted to that. And then I love what's the name of it? When Calls the Heart by Jeanette Oakey. All that series. They turned it into a show, but couldn't touch the books.
Well,
so I've listened to that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a series that goes on for days. So.
Yeah, I'm always looking for a good audiobook when I'm walking. I do a lot of Netflix knitting, but we walk down our road. It's the same scenery every day, so I like a good audiobook, for doing my daily walk for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Cool.
You got to look up those Ann Hood books. They're wonderful.
I will for sure. We'll put the link down below when I find them. So as we wrap this up, check for all those links down below for the patterns and the links to the stuff we talked about. And Shellie, I want to big thank you for joining me on today's PurlCast. Hopefully we'll see each other again in person. That was a blast. We'll do that definitely. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks. I loved it.